Good evening, good evening, good evening. We are live. I set this to go live at 8:05, so it's only 8:02. There's still a couple minutes for folks to get the StreamYard link and join the conversation. I'm just going live a few seconds early here just to make sure we are up on our Free Thinkers page, sharing it to my personal page so that we can grab as many people as we possibly can. If you're interested in getting into the conversation tonight, on the Free Thinkers group page and on my personal page, I have the instructions for StreamYard. So if you're interested in getting on the show tonight and engaging in conversation with us tonight, then go to the Free Thinkers page or go to my personal page and look for that StreamYard link. It is a different code every week, so whatever we used last week is not going to work for this week. But want to just make sure people know how to get on. If you were like, no, I am not going to go on live with these people, but I do like to watch, I do like to listen, I do like to engage sometimes, you're welcome to use the comments feature, obviously, and we do watch those. So we try to tend to the comments in the comment section, but sometimes we don't get to them. So we obviously do invite you to the live conversations so that what you do say can be heard. But you are more than welcome to use the comment section. We do engage with that. And you can always watch us at any time. You don't have to watch us live if you can't watch us at 8 o'clock. If you can't watch the entire show tonight, they stay up on our page forever, as long as Facebook allows us. And they do get moved over to our YouTube page. So there's definitely plenty of opportunity to also support us by watching the stream live tomorrow, tonight, next day, anytime. Of course, we appreciate all the support that we get from people by way of tuning in, by way of participating, by way of just even, being in the comments section, sharing this stream, sharing our stream every Tuesday. Our conversations might not always be something that you want to talk about, but one thing, we've learned after doing this is you never know who's interested in the conversations we talk about. And it's amazing how much positive feedback we get from topics that might not be everybody's favorite topic. So please do us a solid, support us the freest way possible. Hit that share button. We are up live on the Free Thinkers page. We can now push this over to our personal pages if need be. Q, I see you done tapped in tonight. I was just kind of giving a little spiel about how to access the StreamYard link and how to, just engage even if somebody doesn't want to participate in a conversation live. Figured I'd spend a couple minutes just running my mouth before 8:05 hit and folks could chime in. So I'm going to push this to my page really quickly. I was going to kind of just give a quick little breakdown of the topics we are going to talk about tonight too, just so folks know. We have a couple conversations on our group page, and oftentimes we like to just talk about them, together, because it's one thing to post a bunch of responses. As we all know, you can't read tone and, energy sometimes from the things that people say. And, those of us that are involved in Free Thinkers are obviously conversationalists. So being able to read what somebody says is one thing, but being able to talk about something that we're talking about is something totally separate. So majority of the stuff we're talking about tonight are posts that are on the Free Thinkers page. Last week at the end of our meeting, Tira had mentioned the conversation of anger. So I said, well, we can talk about anger a little bit tonight. What it looks like, what it feels like, what it means. Are there pros to anger? Are there benefits to the emotion of anger? We've got a conversation going on there right now about a woman with an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old and how she does not like her 8-year-old and just doesn't see that getting any better ever. And there was obviously a lot of, heated emotional responses to that, as it should be. We also have a conversation going about spanking. The both sides to the conversation of spanking children, whooping children. Is there a difference between spanking, whooping, abuse? Are they all the same thing? And then the last thing that we had thrown up today was the conversation of, and I may botch this quote, but it was essentially, can twerking ever be compared to or looked at artfully as ballet? And there was a lot of, you know, passionate responses on that one too. So those are the topics that we got for tonight. Hopefully we'll be able to get through all of them. But that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Like I said, we're always open to other topics. So throw us topics for future shows. But that's what we got on the menu for tonight. Trisha, I see is in the comments. She's going to be watching us tonight. So, hey, Trish, thanks for joining in. So, it's already 8:08. I assume you probably want to get the show started. So, it's the two of us. So we can do this thing until more people tap in. The topic of anger. So, Tira had posted something on the group page about, just her experience with anger and things that she's learned, going through different experiences with anger, therapeutically learning some things. And so she posted a kind of like this anger thing in relation to what your horoscope is.
It's in relation to the horoscope?
Well, it's just what she posted was. And so it just kind of gave a breakdown of, oh, good, Tira's coming on. It kind of gave a breakdown based on each horoscope.
Oh, man,
like
she got products. She got stacks on stacks.
She said it's been a long time.
She loaded up in there.
Yeah, no. Why is it so quiet? It sounds like you guys are on.
Really?
Let me see.
Turn up, because last week I felt like I was too loud.
It might just be her, because I hear you all right.
Hold on,
yeah, I hear you good.
She got that product. She got them bricks.
Hell yeah. Well, she's opening up another store. She's got, she's got the spot opening up in Black Wall Street in Atlanta there. So hell yeah, she got to have stock. And it's shopping season. You got, all the Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Christmas. That's your money time right there.
Got your shopping season. And I
Nikki,
think,
do you consider yourself an angry person?
I don't.
Have you ever considered yourself an angry person?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Do I think that I lead with anger? I don't.
Okay, hold on. Let me navigate this for you. So what was... Oh, Tierra, come back. So what changed you from being that angry person to being someone who you don't consider yourself angry now? Like, what was it that changed?
I don't think that I was ever really like an angry person, as opposed to, can I be angry? Can anger be an emotion, that is something that I've experienced, Could I be an explosive person? Definitely. I think what changed was honestly just maturity. I've been in a relationship with somebody who was very, very angry. And I think that when you're with somebody who's really angry a lot, and what I feel like might even be considered like, and I hate to like minimize somebody's feelings, but like, this shouldn't make you that angry type of scenario, right? Like, you're entitled to feel how you want to feel, and feelings just are, but like, are you really this angry about this certain type of thing? So to be with somebody who was an angry person, had an angry energy, but understanding that I know what anger comes from. I know that anger is just an emotion that is generally hiding pain and hurt and embarrassment and, all of these things. I think seeing what anger does to other people, seeing how anger affects other people, seeing how your anger like transfers onto your children, your partner, your coworkers, your employees, just the people that are in your life. I think for me, tapping into what that energy felt like was so low vibrational that it was like, I read a quote years ago that says it takes as much energy to be happy as it takes to be angry. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I know you have to work at being angry and you have to work at being happy. I think just maybe, being a mom, having children, not wanting to bleed that hurt onto them or bleed that dysfunctional non-coping skills, onto my kids. It's not fun to live in an angry household. It's not fun to live with angry people. So I think having done that for a long time made me really sensitive that when that relationship ended, anger had to fucking go. And honestly, once that relationship ended, the anger, the anxiety, the walking on eggshells, the constant having to, seek approval for things, like when that shit went out the window and I didn't have to practice those things, I was like, I'll never do this again. I'll never allow anger to be something that leads me, my relationship, how I deal with people. Too much damage happens in an angry moment, and I think I saw it enough.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like I think I just experienced it enough.
Leaves a pile of rubble behind.
It does.
A moment will just leave, long-lasting devastation.
It is, and who really wants that, And I've learned over the course of the last handful of years that I'm an empath. I feel feelings, I feel colors, I feel how people feel. Like I feel people's vibrations, and I didn't know what this was before. And tapping into that and feeling things as intensely as I do, I can't afford for me to feel angry like that. Like I have to let shit go because like the anger manifestation is just not worth it for me.
Right.
What about you? Like I literally don't ever peg you to be like an angry person, but sometimes you never know, how people's responses are in certain situations. Do you ever think that you're an angry person?
I used to be an extremely angry person.
Really?
Had I been diagnosed, they probably would have diagnosed me as like bipolar type.
Really? Okay, so same question. Like, assuming that that's changed, what change took place for you? I mean, I don't live with you, so I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But like, what changed for you that you had to put that to the side? Or has it?
Yes, it has. I'm really not an angry person anymore. I'm pretty laid back. But God.
Yeah.
I think that played a big role. Well, first I would say the acknowledgement that I didn't want to be like that. You got to acknowledge like, hey, I don't really want to be like this.
Well, you can't be in denial. Like it's like this first step of, Alcoholics Anonymous. Like you have to admit that this is a fucking problem, and then of course we go through the next 11.
Like, how do I go about doing it? And for me, it was God, it was church, it was, giving my life over to God. And that did a work within me, and it opened me up and allowed me to learn some things about myself. And you know what? Let me back up. I'll be more specific because people say God in general. The story of Jesus Christ. So I don't people look at Jesus in different ways. I say for me, the story of Jesus did a lot for me by accepting that. So what I mean by that is the whole thing is, I know y'all heard the scripture, God so loved the world, he gave his only son, who forever believe in him should not perish. Blah, blah, blah. Got all that. And the whole story of Jesus was about forgiving those who don't deserve it. So once I realized that everybody's in need of forgiveness, it kept me from holding on to things longer than I needed to. It did a lot with like, hey, if I could be forgiven for all of the messed up stuff I've done, then I can also do that with other people. So I stopped taking things so personal. Every time something happened to me, I didn't like, oh, you trying to do this to me. I didn't internalize it all the time. Like everybody's trying to get me. I was a rage-filled, angry individual. So
do you know why? Had you pinpointed like, why am I so angry? Like,
not.
I guess there doesn't always have to be something, but do you know what caused you to be so angry?
Probably just not understanding purpose, feeling like I was misunderstood. And you know what? That's one of those things to where if you can't put your finger on it, then that in itself is a level of frustration. You're going through life not knowing what it is that you want to do or that you should be doing, and different levels of uncertainty. A lot of that it'll cause you to lash out in different ways. So once you, I think that's the main thing I encourage everyone to do is discover their purpose. Discovering your purpose will take so much bad stuff out of you. I mean, from like bad eating habits, where you spend your time, just dangerous situations. When you know your purpose, you stay away from things that will pull away from your purpose. Just simple stuff. You're like, I don't have time to play video games all day. That takes away from my purpose. I got stuff to do with my life. So even meaningless things that just drain your time, you don't have time for that because you have purpose and you don't want to do anything that's going to pull you away. Like you learn how to balance your life.
Right. See, and I think for me, and Tiara, we'll jump over to you here in a second, but I think for me, I grew up in an environment where it was very therapeutic, exceptionally therapeutic, but it was also dysfunctional as fuck. I'm not going to sit up here and lie and act like it wasn't. I mean, just because we heal and just because, we change our life doesn't mean we done got rid of some of our old stinking thinking and some of our old behaviors and ways. And so I grew up in a place where, yelling was what you did. Like, my parents were yellers, and I think that a lot of that has just been insight for me getting older.
You mean like negative yellers?
I mean, it was just like when you got in trouble, you got yelled at. Like it was always yelling at somebody. Like you were always, you know what I'm saying? Like
we yelled a lot too. But
yeah, and it was.
It depends on the energy that's coming out of it.
It is, and I saw that in me, in times, especially younger days with my kids, and what it is a fucking lack of control. It's a lack of control. That doesn't mean that you're not entitled to feel how you feel, but how you put that on somebody else, you are 100% responsible for that. And after feeling like I crushed my kids' fucking soul sometimes by the way I communicated things or how I got on them, it always left me feeling like an absolute piece of shit. And I don't want that. So if all I got to do is change a couple of these ways that I communicate, but again, I was with a fighter for a long time. So I learned, unfortunately, how to fight. I learned that you have to fight to have your voice be heard. And I didn't learn that that's not necessarily correct until I was fucking late 30. Does that mean the whole rest of the time before that was just an angry, tumultuous place? Absolutely not. But it was definitely something that was not an uncommon space in my life. And I just, like today, the thought of arguing with a man or fighting with a man, especially my partner, it almost makes me feel nauseous. Like I will not fight with you. Like we can go words back and forth, but I'm not going to fight and break things and throw things and punch things. And I've been her. I know how to patch walls like a motherfucker. I can do all of those things. But it's like, why? So when Tara mentioned last week the topic of anger, I was like, man, that's something that a lot of us probably don't even know is the core feeling that we feel and why we lash out sometimes in situations that we lash out. Tiara, you brought up the conversation of anger.
Yeah. So can you hear me okay, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So one, I believe that anger is the, like the effect after the cause. Whatever it's deriving from something else. Frustration, loss, someone or something like that. That's how I believe that it manifests in us, because with something else that we have not dealt with, which honestly we do not. No one equips us with skills. Like how they say, oh, well, there's no handbook how to raise a child. It really isn't. And each household is totally different on how they feel that they should raise their child. And so by not having some like set rules or some guidelines to deal with another human being responding to whatever outside environment, we don't even know how to deal with, because we don't have, we're a cycle of stuff that gets really placed onto our kids if we have not learned from it. And then the anger itself, whether it's brief or not, it creates another layer, which is things like vindictive behavior, or you being petty,
resentments. Resentments
yes.
and grudges.
And then the final thing I would say about it is and people that are so warped in anger, they have no sense of accountability. Like they lose that peace in that moment. They have no idea to say to themselves, okay, if this escalates, this I can see what the outcome could be. It's almost like trying to put the horse back in the barn, but you can't, because it's out. And so a lot of times when I know for myself, I suffer with different anger, but it doesn't necessarily come out as how people think. A lot of people associate anger with, the yelling and the screaming and the rage part of it.
The violence.
Yeah, it can be very passive aggressive.
Yeah,
you can be demeaning.
Yeah.
By just cutting people with some, you don't have to be loud to say something negative or spew some hate on somebody, or just hate them. Those things, I think, we don't pay attention to. And I know my anger would be like that. I used to carry a lot of chips on my shoulder. You wrong me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm holding on to anger, and in reality, I don't know how to let it go. And forgiving people after they have wronged me, it was like, ooh, that was difficult for me to do.
Do you feel like you have to forgive somebody to let go of anger? Because I don't.
For me, that was the number one thing for me. Learning how to forgive was the biggest component of learning how to release anger. If I didn't learn how to forgive, then I would still be an angry person.
See, and I don't know. I have a hard time with the word forgiveness, because I don't believe that you have to forgive anybody or anything to let things go, to be at peace with something. And so I wonder sometimes if that's why people struggle with the emotion of anger or with the emotion of reconciliation, because it means I have to somehow forgive what you did. And if I'm really not okay with what you did, how the fuck do I make it okay in my head, right? But I learned, and at the same time, I don't feel like that's holding a grudge. I don't feel like that's being petty. I think that your own personal boundaries are super fucking important. But I do believe that letting things go has to happen. And like letting things go means you can't take it back. Like once you let it go, you got to let it go.
And I agree with that saying that forgiveness is more, it's not for them,
for you.
It's for you.
Yeah.
And for me, that was definitely the case. It was, I need to forgive you so that I can go on and keep moving about. Because as long as I'm still giving, if I don't, then I'm still giving you mental energy, either known or unknown. So a lot of times there's a lot of people who angry and they don't even know why they're angry no more. And they still got stuff pent up because of something that their brother did or something that their family member, one of their best friends did. I had one of those issues. Oh my God. Not less than a couple of months ago. My best friend. I mean, my best friend in the whole world. And it was some issues that I didn't even know. It went back 20 years. And I was like, damn, okay.
See?
Okay. And it was like, shoot, it was and it needed to be talked about. It needed to be put out there. And I never would have known that. And it was stuff that I was mindful of, but I didn't know that it affected them the way that it did. Had I known it affected them that much, then I would have brought it up, or I would have brought it to the surface. But it's like, that could have been an issue, but we passed that. It ain't no big deal. I'm not going to bring up nothing if it's, why would I bring up something to try to pull off a scab? But it wasn't a scab. It was a wound. I was like, ooh, so yeah.
And you didn't get to properly heal that. So you had literally a scab over it. It was infected still underneath. It wasn't healed properly.
Infection, yeah. Absolutely.
Well, but the worst part is when people are angry with you and they don't communicate that to you. Like
that's what unforgiveness does a lot of times, though.
Yeah. Because when you give that a lot of times that space for forgiveness, you also get a different you start opening your mind. One, it gives you the ability to open your mind and hear people out, and gain perspective that you may have not even thought of. Because a lot of times we're so, like I said, we're so angry, we're pissed, you wronged me, and you living in that moment instead of saying, wow, I didn't realize that this was going on in your life too. And this, we kind of had a crossroads there. And even though it wasn't right, now I can feel a little bit better about the situation. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I can see it differently instead of just my point of view of what I felt about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's crazy because a lot of times, like I said, I go to therapy. I go to therapy for anger and ways to deal with my anger. And I was telling her, I said, it's hard to think about anger in the moment. It's always reflective. Oh yeah, after that, yeah, I kind of turned up on them a little bit too much. Or, even like in pertaining to the other topic, spanking or rearing your child, a lot of that is sometimes done in that moment of anger. So is it really beneficial to do that in that moment? But you gotta address it in that moment. But a lot of times it may be a little bit more heightened because of your anger, and that kid is receiving that energy. They're receiving that anger on the opposite end. So a lot of times when you're angry, you don't think about those things, and that becomes where you create a toxic environment that cycles on to the next.
Have either of y'all ever
angry?
I mean, I'm not going to lie and say that I haven't, because obviously there have been times they've pissed me off because of the behavior and I've popped them, right? Like that has definitely happened. But to be in that space where I am just spanking or whooping and I don't know what I'm doing, or it's done out of, I mean, the endorphins that are released in situations like that, like I'm not going to whoop you until I feel better, and that's why I said in the post, I think that there are levels to spanking and whooping and abusing children. And I do respect that people have strong beliefs on, the particular topic, and everybody's situation is different. But I think that, the bottom line when it comes to the spanking situation is that, what was done prior to me having to spank? What was done prior to me feeling like this was what the last resort was? And if it isn't your last resort, then you might have a problem. It shouldn't be your first resort every single time for every single thing that your kid does wrong. And we know those kids. Hell, some of us were those kids, we didn't get talked to. So then when we turn into adults, we fucking hit. We're angry, we're resentful, we don't know how to communicate our emotions and our feelings, and I think one of the scariest times I ever had, I was definitely in an abusive relationship, and we got into a physical fight. I learned how to fight from fighting a man, and that's a horrible thing to say, but it's
a lot of women do.
It's the truth, right? I remember we got into a fight one night, and I was so enraged. I was so pissed. He came for me first, and I finished it, but I blacked out. I don't fucking remember. I don't remember. I knew where it happened at. I knew what happened. I remember getting stuck behind the bathroom door. I remember the little bitty ass counter being in the way. Like, I remember those bits and pieces, but I'm like, I fucking blacked out during this episode of just anger and fear and, whatever else was happening at that moment. I was like, I can't, this is not okay. Like, this, for me, that was just not okay. And, and that's why I'm so vocal about, men hitting women and women hitting men, or women pushing men's buttons and expecting men not to fucking snap sometimes, vice versa, because the damage is done in the anger. The destruction is done in the angry moment. And, when you get down to the nuts and bolts of what anger really, really, really is, it's, what do they say? It's hurt turned inside out. And it's easier to identify anger. It's easier to show anger than it is to show hurt, than it is to say I'm hurt, than it is to say you hurt my feelings, or I don't like this, or, to communicate vulnerability. Anger is a fucking defense mechanism. It's that wall, you know, and it serves its purpose sometimes.
It gives you a false sense of control.
It does. You have no control when you're angry like that.
But you feel like you do. That's why people like to resort to anger, because it makes you feel like you're actually in control.
Yeah, because you now you have caused a reaction in others. You gain that attention, whether good or bad, and so it does. It gives you a false sense of control, and a lot of people that have anger issues have control issues.
Yeah.
Surprisingly so. So when they're disrupted, in that bubble they have set, and especially if it's fragile, and don't have the proper tools to deal with it, then you know you're really a bomb waiting to go off.
And it's sad because if you watch an angry person, you see it manifest in their body, their language, like the vibration of them just totally changes. And it, you know, when you're in it and you're in the heat of the moment, of course, like our filters are totally gone. But like to stand back and watch it, anger is a powerful, powerful emotion. And I think that unfortunately a lot of people cling to it because of that lack of control for themselves personally, but it gives the impression that I'm so in control and I'm so tough and, you know, I'm so badass and you can't do anything to me. And it almost, after a while, it really highlights that person's, I don't want to say weakness, because, you know, people can look at that as a negative word, but it kind of is. Like
it's a form of insecurity.
Yeah.
So what kind of tools or techniques or things has your therapist like talked about in terms of like identifying anger, trigger issues, things like that? Like, how do those conversations go? I'm curious.
So if it's with a loved one or spouse, it's like a lot of times is establishing best practices for arguing prior to
right.
So like let's get some ground rules.
That's really important.
If we're going to argue, then we need to know at what point to say, okay, tag out.
Right.
Or, we're not going to do this.
Right.
Or we're not going to do this in this setting. Or, you know, so she said it's very important to establish the ground rules prior to the arguments, because a lot of times you're trying to establish them and rules in the argument, and that
hell no,
each other.
That ain't working. Even more. Now you're trying to tell me what to do?
Yeah, so it's basically finding a way to have different, because you're gonna have disagreements, but having some ground rules there was one of the things. Another thing is, you know, knowing my triggers and telling people, hey, sometimes you need to just take a moment. If you know you get roused up and you feel it bubbling up, remove yourself from that situation to be able to allow yourself to just breathe. Because a lot of times it just goes like 0 to 100 real quick type stuff, and you are already in it. But sometimes you have to remove yourself. So she just was like, you know, practicing, establishing ground rules. She said you can do this with your friends too. If you and your friends are always combative or whatever, you can do that too, because it's natural to have disagreements. Everybody you should be around should not agree with you.
Right.
Like you don't want that. But what you do want is have healthy discussions.
What that also does, Tiara, is it forces accountability on you too. Because you can't put expectations on somebody else and you flipping out. But like, hold on, you ain't followed your own rules that you're trying to set for everybody else. And sometimes people don't like doing that, because now that everything that you say now, you're going to be held to that same standard. So you got to be prepared to, number one, practice that same standard, and number one, apologize when you miss the mark on those standards.
Yes, that's a big one.
Like, you know what? I had a bad moment. That was on me. I should have responded differently. I shouldn't have said this. I shouldn't have did that. And you gotta go back over the ground rules with yourself or whoever, your partner, your friend, whoever. You know what? I talked about doing this in this situation and I didn't do it. I apologize. I'll make sure I'll definitely do better next time. You got to be able to say that.
An apology and action, it can do so much to so many failed relationships out there. And it becomes a pride thing after a certain thing, and you didn't had your words or whatever. it becomes a pride issue. Like I you know, I ain't gonna apologize, and it becomes bigger than what it is. If you literally would say sorry or
Right.
I apologize
And
for
see,
my
this is
behavior, I'll try better.
so this is the
Ooh,
misconception
yes.
that people have too, Tierra. They think if I apologize, then that means I'm letting them off the hook for what their part in it.
Right.
No, it's not. Let me look. Whatever on your whatever. Either you could deal with that, we'll deal with that, or not. I need to apologize for my part.
Yep.
This is
And
what
that's all you can
forget about that.
apologize for. I mean,
But people
in
try to
that
throw these sideways apologies, and you know, I'm sorry if I didn't, if you didn't see that I was trying to blah blah. You
that
know,
ain't
and
even
it's
a
Right.
like,
I'm so
that's a
sorry.
bullshit
what
apology.
was that an
That's a
apology?
bullshit apology. That ain't an
I'm sorry
apology.
that I had to
I'm sorry
respond
that
the
you're
way that I
mad.
did when you said
Right.
this.
So you're
No,
not really
that's not an
sorry at all.
apology.
You just
It's a
sorry that
sign
I
of
had a
apology.
response to that shit, you know?
Right.
Mhm. Do you guys have an issue with you know, somebody saying, "Oh, I apologize" versus "I'm sorry"? Like for me, I have there's this person I know, and because I know him the way I know him, he doesn't want to say "I'm sorry," but he'll tell you, "Oh, my bad," or "I apologize."
So what it is, Nikki, it don't matter what you say, but I need you to clearly articulate what it is
Right.
that you are apologizing or you're
Right.
sorry for. Just saying,
Right. Right.
all right, I apologize. All right, sorry.
Right.
I don't know. Tell
And
me
I
what it is
don't.
what are you acknowledging that you did wrong, and what are you telling, you know, and that's what I learned in management,
Yeah.
even in the, you know what, yeah, I should have had them, you know, this in next case, moving forward, that's one word I apologize. Moving forward, next time we're gonna handle it this way.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
not
my
telling
apologies.
somebody what you are sorry or apologizing for is almost generic in its nature.
It is.
Yes, I
It's
agree.
You know,
manufactured. It's not
it's
real.
like
I don't feel like it's real. Yeah.
it's not given what it's supposed to be given. And then I would also say, when you sometimes I feel like apology is a formal way of saying something, and sorry is just the informal way of saying it. More of a personal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I think when I encounter other adults, not in relation to me or friendships, I might apologize more than if I'm in an intimate or close relationship. I might be sorry. So I almost think it's informal and formal to me, but I do believe as far as like not knowing why, because I mean the
I
other
need some
person don't
reflection
even,
on your part.
yeah,
Reflect.
I don't know what is going. I mean,
Well, there's some validation in there when you repeat back the shit that you
If I
know is
gotta
hurting
give the
my
whole
feelings.
rundown on what you did to me and why, and then you just say sorry, my bad, I apologize.
Right.
what
No,
part?
I need
What
some
part did I
Right.
hurt?
exactly
Right. Which
what part.
one? Which
What
part?
are you acknowledging? What was you? I wasn't even thinking about that. I was
I'm
I was
sorry
in
I
my
cheated
own
on
world. I
you
really
with
shouldn't have did
such and
that.
such.
That was
Ooh.
that was wrong on my part. Next time I'll make sure that I keep this in mind. Blah 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 blah. I apologize.
Yeah.
You right. I apologize.
And it comes then because that is just the beginning of it, the healing. You have to have action. Like
Period.
people think that holds weight. It's a little note. It's nothing.
Right.
If you don't do the action
Change the
or
behavior.
do the work or change the behavior, it is really void.
It's
not
nothing,
even,
but it's something. So what it is, and what I say is, it's nothing if you don't actually follow it up with actions. But for those people who won't even apologize, like, there's no way we're gonna move forward because you haven't even acknowledged that you did anything wrong. So it's almost impossible for us to get to that place because you think you're still good, right? You think you're still good right now.
And that's people that don't want to hold themselves accountable, don't want to reflect, and naturally have this pride about them that they cannot come down from. And that's what I try to remove from myself is not thinking I'm above apology, like I'm always on the right side of the conversation, like my point is always superior. Not all the time.
I've had this conversation with Nikki before. I lose respect for people who don't know how to take a step back and apologize. Right. I was like, oh, you, like, to me, see, people think apologizing makes them weak. For me, if you don't know how to, then I look at you like, I look at you a little weaker than I looked at you before.
It takes a bigger person, like they always tell you,
right,
to do that. Like, to be like, you know what? This my fault. I apologize for, raising my voice. I shouldn't have raised my voice. And hopefully that is like that olive branch that you extend out to somebody that they can be able to receive and then process their own part and whatever happened. And it takes a real mature adult to do that. Because like I said, a pride thing, once you've been attacked, hurt, or whatever, you have this pride about you, like, no, you're untouchable. So now that you touch me, I'm damn for sure not gonna like be sympathetic for you or apologize to you. You're not worthy. Well, what did you do?
So real quick, I seen this 50-year-old picture of Sanaa Lathan. Goodness gracious, she's finer than she ever been. Anyway, now the other thing I was gonna say, they not related at all. The other thing you have to do is you got to actually practice it. Like getting the game plan. Like if you talking to your significant other and say, hey, well, we're gonna do this. When somebody gets angry, then this is gonna be our word that we use, or this is what we're gonna say, or this is how we're gonna respond, or I'm gonna tap you on the shoulder twice. All of that's fine, but it only matters when you're actually in the heat of. The only time you can work on it is when it's real game time. That's just like patience. The only time you can work on patience
is when you need to exercise
it. Your patience.
Right.
That's the only, being patient when you don't need it, that's not real patience. It's when you're at that breaking point and when you're ready to snap on somebody because you've been waiting in line for, okay, now this is your training. This is your training moment. How are you going to handle it? So anyway, for me, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. And
being in the moment, real time, you got to be in the moment. So I have to it's weird. Like I almost have to step outside myself. So before, like when I and I have to pay attention. Like and I do that with a lot of things. When I'm getting angry, I got to be able to step outside myself and be like, hey, pay attention to the situation. This was going on. How are you going to de-escalate yourself and de-escalate the situation? I also do that when I get in moments of depression and I get in a funk. I have to step outside myself. Yo, you going into this mode. We've been here before. We got to start doing some of these things to bring ourselves up out of this, because we know how far down this hole you can go if you don't start getting hold of it.
Awareness is a really big thing that a lot of times people don't really take the time to do. Is sit and be aware, like, okay, I'm in this and I know I'm in this, and now I can start doing the steps that I've learned or told myself to do. That is being present in that moment and understanding what you're doing is huge. You can always reflect, like I see so many like senseless violence or whatever. They're totally not even in the moment. They're so caught up on whatever they were angry about, and that is manifest all the way until after it's done, and then they're having to reflect like, ooh, what I did that for what? And I'm just like, why are we not teaching our kids better social skills, better communication skills? But when you go to a school that is programmed just to teach you a test, those little things that we miss, a socialization, because you're not going to live in this world by yourself, and you're going to have to deal with people you don't like. You're going to have to do sometimes things you don't want to do. Like, do we really prepare our kids for that?
Yeah, that's true.
So I want to throw something in there, Tiara, because I've been thinking about this the last couple minutes of this conversation. Is I read something a while back, and it said something to the effect of, if a child wasn't apologized to, they're probably not going to fucking apologize.
Nope.
So here we have adults who probably were not gifted with the same tools of forgiveness and patience and kindness. And that doesn't mean we all come from bad places, but like, how many times have, you felt like, man, you fucking owe me an apology, like for real, but you're not going to get one. So as a child, well, I'm just repeating what I was shown. And so this is normal, so to then get into a relationship with somebody who either tests your patience, brings the anger out of you, knows how to push those buttons, like it just becomes a toxic, tumultuous situation. But so many times, those people, I feel like you got children who were never apologized to, who were never talked to during things. They were just whooped, beat, scolded, consequence, punishment, take this. And it was like, Armand said a couple shows ago, African proverb, the child that's not loved I believe something to the effect will come back. A child that does not feel the warmth of the village will come back and burn it down.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense, you know, and I think the older I've gotten and the more complex issues I've gone through as an adult, as a mother, as a woman, as a wife, as a partner, like, and I've said this many times before on the show, I think so many of us, with all the good intention of most of our parents, right? I think so many of us were just ill-equipped, and we kind of had to learn the hard way.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head with apologizing, learn to be able to apologize to your kids. So many kids never hear that because we grew up in the era where parents were right and that was it.
Yeah.
It was not common to have a parent apologize.
Right.
It just wasn't. It was more of like a hierarchy
of
order.
Yeah.
And even if I'm wrong, you're not worthy.
I'm still right.
I'm still right
I'm still right
because I provide you this, this, and this.
Yes.
And now
yes.
What have
You'll
we
be
now,
all right. You're all right.
And then what we have, placed into our children, the same mentality. You'll be all right, or I'm not going to apologize because I give you this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
You're not.
But we expect them to respect us. Like what?
I apologize to my kids all the time. I make it a habit. If Daddy, you said you was gonna make them waffles. Oh, I'm sorry, baby. You sure right. I apologize. I forgot. I'm sorry. I forgot. Next time I'm gonna make sure I do it right when you ask me, so I don't forget next time.
And don't you enjoy apologizing to your children? Like I do, not because I'm fucked up, right? But like I enjoy showing. Yes, I enjoy showing them it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to feel how you feel. And in that, I hope that I use the words properly so that they can identify what that feels like, so that they aren't frustrated and irritated and all of these things and don't know what those feelings are, to know how to channel those things or when to take that step back and figure out, okay, this ain't gonna work if I keep throwing fire on this, fuel on this fire. And again, I'm so grateful for the way that I was raised, because I was raised in a very therapeutic environment and was given a lot of fantastic fucking tools. But even with that being said, to not be angry takes work. To not be in that space of ego takes work. To be humble takes work. To say sorry takes work. Like when I first got into my relationship with their dad, I was a I'm sorry kind of person. Like it wasn't like a codependent I'm sorry, but it was like, oh, I fucked up, I'm so sorry. And after so much fighting, I never fucking apologize anymore because I wasn't sorry. Now I'm like, I'm throwing out apologies, because now I identify what that is and what that looks like and how that feels. And so when I read that quote about children who were not apologized to don't apologize, it broke my heart. Because that's so many of us, there's so many people on this planet who are walking around with just the inability to process emotions and be sorry when we're sorry.
Yeah, I think that it's big to do that. And it also, you have to allow your child to have a space of reaction to how you have came at them. A lot of times when they have anger, they have to bottle it in, and they have to mom's mad at me and they can't speak to it, and so they hold that anger in, and that becomes resentment and other things that manifest out in their lives. So we have to be comfortable allowing our kids not to speak to you in a disrespectful way or manner, but allow them to have a space of communication as well. But also, when you have, caused pain or hurt, being able to apologize. I just remember grown-ups didn't apologize back in the day.
Right.
That wasn't a thing.
Right. No.
I
remember the first time I said I was sorry to one of my kids, like my partner at the time was like, why the fuck are you apologizing to the kids? And I'm like, what? Like, because I did something wrong. I did something hurtful. I did something that clearly my child had a response to that wasn't a pleasant response. Like, it's my job to say that I'm sorry as a human. But for so many people, suck that shit up. Suck it up.
I guess when they believe they clothe you, feed you, things like that. I guess parents, and I get it. I get it.
Right.
But I mean, I think it would have been much more helpful for a lot of kids to hear that.
Yeah.
But again, it was the parent hierarchy type thing. You're a kid. This is my household. You're going to have to live with it type stuff. Well, what are they living with?
Not only what they live like, I don't think they had I don't think parents then fully thought through what you want your child to be. Like, I'm giving off what I want them to be. Everything is a life lesson and an opportunity to teach. It's a teachable moment. Maybe the only mission was for you to graduate and not go to jail. I don't know. So, they're going to beat you for the police get to you, and they're going to make sure you go to school. But, and for me, I just focus more on, I want, and maybe because that was my issue, that goes all the way back to what I originally said at the beginning of this, not knowing who I was, not understanding myself. I feel like if my children continually work on knowing who they are, understanding, what they want in life, what their goals, dreams, passions are, just understanding who they are, then you'll have much more of a head start of living a happier life. And you can't be manipulated and swayed by other people to try to get you to do things that goes against your purpose of what you want to do. So that's my goal. I want them to get to that point, and part of that is reflection, awareness, self-acknowledgement, growth, strategy, all of that. That's really where I focus at with my children more than anything.
Well, see, and I think that's why I answered that question about the spanking and the whooping kids the way that I did, is because I do try to live a righteous life. I do. And I think that a lot of the times when you get these out of control whooping, spanking, hitting on your kid situation, it's because you're not living righteously. You're living a lifestyle that you are a hypocrite. You are taking it out on your kids, because sometimes they call you to the table. They're like, what you mean I can't, do this, that, the third when you do? Or you have this is the rule of the house, but you constantly breaking it. Like, you're sending a mixed message to your kid. And so for me, like, yes, I've definitely hit my kids. I've definitely spanked my kids when I'm mad. I'm mad because of their behavior. I'm mad because they stepped out of line. I'm mad because they know better and they still chose to choose, to test the situation. But I'm not putting hands on them because I have failed as a parent. I don't feel that way, that I've failed as a parent. And so this is my only resort, because I can't communicate with them in any other form or fashion, because I'm not leading a good life by example. Like, no, I'd be an absolute hypocrite if I'm over here whooping on my kids for some shit that I'm doing. Like, I'm not going to do that. And I think that a lot of people, that's why they whoop up on their kids, is because they're angry and they're frustrated and they're irritated. And that's just an instant response to get that out of the way, and then boom, correct the behavior. But it's not correcting shit, because you're going to go model the same behavior that they just got in trouble for. So I would say that at least 90% of the times that I had to whoop up on my kids, and it ain't like I'm walking around whooping my kids 24/7. Don't get me wrong. It was after, plenty of redirection, plenty of conversation, plenty of tools coming out of the fucking toolbox that we can try to use to figure out what's going on, plenty of me crying, trying to figure out how can I help you in this situation, to where this is just where you took it. And when it comes to a safety issue, a disrespect issue, the issue of, I'm raising two boys in a society today, two young Black boys in a society today that's not any gentler to them than they were before. Like, I can't send them out there thinking, oh, just because we get away with shit at home, we can get away with shit everywhere. No, absolutely not. And again, that doesn't have to be for everybody. But that's kind of why I answered that question the way that I did on the post, is because of the lifestyle that's lived, of the ability for me to be able to apologize to them, the ability for me to be able to exercise discipline and control for them. I do expect that in return, because that's what I've taught. That's what I've shown, as opposed to nobody showed me shit, and now I have these expectations for you that I can't even meet. And I think that that's where a lot of the anger when it comes to spanking our kids comes from with people.
And I was
Spank
gonna
angry.
say too, it's a lot of times people don't know you have to be present with your children too. Like
Yeah.
if you are, your head is always somewhere else, whether that's your phone, the TV, this, that,
Mm-hmm.
you look up and they doing something crazy or they talking
Right.
crazy or they're, but you're not present.
Right. That's
And
on
so
you.
all of the chances you could have got to redirect before they were literally, hanging from the ceiling fan, you
Dumping nail polish on the
missed.
couch.
Right. You missed. I see this happen with parents all the time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching your kid, like, about to self-destruct. But like
Mm-hmm. It's about to go
your
down.
head is in your phone, or
Yep.
you're watching the TV, or you so engaged in something else that by the time they have completely toppled something over, now you ready to whoop them.
Yep.
But
Yep.
It's
you
your
weren't
fault.
present. And so I have small children, and so I'm learning like the importance of being really present. Another thing is lack of planning. Like, it ain't no point in me wanting to hit my kid in the morning because I woke up 30 minutes late.
Right.
And now I'm in a rush. And now
Right.
I'm frustrated and I'm irritated. And why are you moving so slow? And why ain't the
So
2-year-old crawling
unfair.
down the steps fast enough? Like, you could have woke up earlier and they would have had time
And
to
crawling
be.
down the steps fast enough.
Oh my God, my
You're
2-year-old
moving too
crawled down the steps so
slow.
slow. She needed a lot of time
Wow.
to do that. And then the other thing is just ego, right? My 4-year-old was like really getting with me a second ago before she went to bed. And my first response was, and I do say this sometimes, I'm trying not to, is like, who you talking to, But I stopped myself and I said, why are you being mean to mommy? Well, I just really wanted to, she told me, and we had a conversation about it instead of just, who you talking to? And she always say, nobody. And that's the end of the conversation. That's not, what did we just learn? We didn't learn
Right.
anything.
Didn't learn any,
But
you
I'm
gain
so
anything
used.
from it.
Right.
But that's what I got. So it's just, that's my natural response if I don't stop myself and say, okay, let's go about this a different way. So
I see. I don't. The threat of a whooping has to be there for me. That's just. I don't. I got my baby girl twice her whole life. I think once last year and once when she was about 4. And I got my son, a few times, but you got to know that you can get it. That is an option on the
Yeah.
table.
Straight up.
And that is
Straight up.
so that
Yeah.
no,
allows me
definitely.
to talk
That's
to them
For real.
regular. I can talk to, hey, now okay, so if we come across this again and then you still do this, then what do you think is going? I'm gonna get a whoop. I said, well, maybe not, but let's just just make sure that we do it. But anyway, it's that got to be on the table. All of my nieces, nephews, I had to get all of them just one time. I'm like, they just need to know that they can get it.
Oh, my
And
niece
I
and
ain't got
nephew
no
look at
problem.
me totally different because they've seen me get my kids. So they know, do not fuck with Nikki. Like, she is not playing. Like, and it's funny because they give my sister shit, especially when they were littler. I was like, ooh. And, it's funny because, like, my friends will always mess around and be like, I'm finna bring my kids over there to Camp Nikki. And I'm like, no, no, I got to
Yeah, they
work on
ain't
my
ready for
own
that.
people.
They
You
ain't
can't
ready for
have,
that.
not for them to go back to you and you to just fuck up the work we done made over here. Like, no. But I think,
oh,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was gonna say it was funny when my nephew was going on a trip with me once back up to Illinois. His dad told him in the car. He told me in front of him, "Oh, you gonna have to pop him at least once on this trip." And I said, "I will not. No, I won't." And
You
he
gonna
said,
have
"Oh,
to.
yes,
You
you
gonna have
will."
to. You got to set the
And my nephew was in
parameters.
the backseat like.
So you gonna have
But
to.
you
At
know
least
what?
one.
I understand now that I have children. Like, your
Mm-hmm.
child's going somewhere out of town with somebody else. I need to know you'll do anything to keep my child safe, even if that
Period.
means you will pop them to keep them
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
You will do anything to keep my child safe. And I think that whole trip, I did end up popping my nephew one time, but it was because he was sticking his hand. We were in Chicago and he was sticking his hand in the hole where the thing goes around. I can't bring
What
my
thing
nephew
go
back
around?
without a hand
What thing
from
go around?
Chicago. We were in like a restaurant in Chicago. You know, the turn thing.
Oh, the door?
And I told him like
Oh,
2 or 3
yeah.
times,
Oh, yeah, you
don't
got to-
put your
got to
hand in
get it.
there. Do not put your hand in there. Do not put.
You got
So
to
I
get it.
finally popped him, and he was so sad. My mom was so sad. But I was like, I can't
Bro.
bring him back to Texas without a hand.
Okay.
Nope, you can't come back without.
Mm-hmm.
My brother would
Mhm.
kill me if I couldn't pop him, so he lost his hand. No, we gonna pop a kid today.
Yeah.
And popping a kid is not the same damn thing as whooping no kid.
No,
You know what I mean?
I just
Like,
popped his hand.
No.
right.
It's totally different.
You hurt his little feelings more than you hurt his hand.
Listen,
You definitely hurt feelings.
my daughter, I popped her a couple times when she was 3, and I haven't, like, literally, I have not popped her in probably over a year. But to this day, if she'd be like, "Mommy, don't pop me," if she really step into it, I'm like, "Girl, you ain't got popped in over a year. Why?" But it's like what Quentin said, like, she still knows there's a limit, like, that mommy will pop me if she has to, even though I never do it. But like her mind says, it is a possibility. So I get that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's condoning violence. I don't think you popping your kid on the hand or the butt or wherever you feel you need to pop your kid what is warranted. I don't think that is going to turn our children into raging maniacs that are going to be beating their partners. You know, now if we doing this every day, all day, and this is our only way of dealing with our children, now we got a problem. But you do have to set some boundaries, and sometimes it is a safety issue. Sometimes, for me, it's a respect issue, because I respect my children. You will respect me, and you're not going to respect me because I'm your mom. You're going to respect me because I respect you, and I expect respect from you, and I respect other people. So doing stuff like, you know, and all kids are going to lie, and all kids are going to, all kids are going to do certain things, and so we do have to find the level in which we discipline our kids. But like, when you went to school and you acted a complete fucking donkey, don't think that you were going to come home and it was just going to be cool because now you're at home. Like, that behavior is not acceptable outside of anywhere. So we're not going to condone this at all. We're going to, there's going to be a consequence, and again, I understand why people feel the way that they do about spanking children, but I do believe that there is a fine line between corrective and abuse. Really and truly.
And what Ivory said about being present in your kid's life, it's very important when you're child rearing, because a child needs to know the love, and experience the love of a parent, and not just the child rearing. It's sometimes parents are just their purpose, and dads get sometimes a bad rap for that, because they're the ones that are supposed to be this authoritarian person in the household, and then you have them walking over mom. But now you have, of course, mom doing both jobs, which is, I think, is good. I think both parents should be able to child rear, and both parents, demonstrate that love. If one just is showing that, or if a parent is not showing that love, then that kid, that's all he sees, that's all he experiences, is that negative reaction. And then they don't get to understand really the purpose of what you're trying to do. You're trying to show them love. You're trying to teach them. You're trying to make sure they're safe. They don't understand that, because all you're doing is hitting them. They have no communication of anything else.
Yeah, communication is everything with me. Number one, my kids, they're never going to get spanked without knowing ahead of time what's going on, why this is happening. And in almost every situation, we've already had this conversation before. And then even afterwards, now what are we, moving forward? That's what I say again. Hey, what are we going to do so this doesn't happen again? So it's always clear instruction, clear direction, and it happens, and then we move off of it. Like, all right, that's done. I mean, if there's other punishments that you got, then you gotta serve out your punishment. But it's not that anger associated with it. We still, I know how people say, well, you ain't supposed to hug them after you look. No, we're gonna hug it out.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to do it.
Me too. I didn't want to in the first place. We hugged.
Yeah. But first
my
of all,
little baby was so hurt. I had to get her last year or something.
But do you ask, or do you just hug?
No,
because
I don't force my
yeah,
children to
I
have
No,
ask,
no, 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 no,
involvement
no.
can I
ever.
have a hug? Can I hug you? And there have been
Right.
times where my kids have been like, I'm not ready. And I'm like, all right, I have to respect
Yeah,
your
no, it
fucking body. As much as I preach about respecting the body,
right.
like
Yeah,
I'm
because
not
my
just gonna
daughter
go,
used to have a little
Yeah.
attitude and she didn't
yeah, I'm
want.
not
I'm
just
like,
gonna
all
go
right,
force my hug on you because that's about me
no
now.
forced
That's
hugs.
not about that
Yeah.
It
child. Now
sure
it's
is
about
about
making
you
me
at that
Right.
feel
point.
better, What about
No,
like,
with my daughter, she when she her little feelings was hurt more than anything, and I could just tell she
yeah.
wanted the hug more than anything. I'm like, it's all right, come on, bring it in.
And
You can't
sometimes you
win.
just need to
She
Right.
give them a
just,
minute
but that's
so
what she
they can
really she
Right,
process
wanted
their
more than
stuff.
right,
anything, just to know
right,
like
right.
you're not too upset with me. I'm like, look, choices and consequences.
Because
Let's
I
do
know I
that.
done
Yeah.
stormed off to a room and been pissed about some stuff, and you just have to give me a minute, and then we're eating dinner,
Right.
and it's back to normal. But you got to give
Yeah.
kids sometimes that space to feel that hurt and understand and reprocess. But a lot of times, we don't even understand how to punish our kids. What really would
True.
work? A lot of kids in our days, shoot, you tell them they can't go outside. That was devastating. Like
Inside all day. That was like mass punishment.
that was punishment. You grounded. What? No, let me get a spanking.
Yes.
Let me just do
Right. I'll
me.
take a whooping. I'll
No.
take a whooping.
And so you really
Mhm.
gotta really understand child rearing is
Right.
so many different levels that
Yep.
a lot of times people only think of, the actual contact with a pop or a spank. When it's so many other things that you can actually do, uh,
Right. And
that
it
is
was
just
Yeah,
funny
I
as
was gonna.
effective. Just as
when my
effective.
son was
Yeah.
younger, actually putting him in the corner was the worst thing for him. Like he was so social, he liked being around people. That you go in the corner, and he would just break. He hated just the
Oh my
isolation, and for
gosh.
15 minutes he hated it. So for him, that
Wow.
was more effective than anything else that I could do.
Right.
And I was just thinking about Tierra saying just the layers of child rearing. Like I've had to learn lately my children's love languages. So reading a book about
Yes.
children's love languages. And it helped me realize like my oldest daughter, her love language is like quality time and gifts. So it's two things. So her love language is quality times and gifts. So if she's getting enough time and she's getting gifts, she's just a better behaved child.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing, she has a really strong personality, and she has a lot of energy. And so I'm learning if her power bucket is full and her attention bucket is full, she acts better.
Hmm.
So sometimes I have to look at myself at the end of the week when she's acting crazy and say, did you spend enough time with her this
Mm-hmm.
week?
Give her enough
Mhm.
attention.
Did you give her enough choices this week? Because she
Mhm.
needs to control things. I'm just trying to teach her not to control me, but give her other things to control. And when she
Right.
has a lot of things to control and she has the right amount of attention, she's like a different child. She's
Mhm.
loving, she's respectful, she listens, but if her buckets aren't full, she's a monster.
And that's
Well,
the
and
beautiful
at
thing
3 and
about learning
4,
your
she might
kids.
not have. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying a lot of people think kids need to learn how the household goes based on the parent, but we also got to learn our kids.
Yeah.
We got to
Yes.
understand our kids. A lot of
Yeah.
times, they act out in a way because of something that you need to pay attention to.
Right.
Yep.
It don't derive out of thin air. It's something else going on. You need to talk to them. You need to see what's going on. But a lot of times parents are so busy saying they need to conform to you and what your
Mhm.
ideals is, when we need to be seeing how to love them properly and give them what they need, and when they need it.
And remembering that 3 and 4 year olds, they only have so much in their little toolbox. They only know so much, and so it's like it is important to understand your children's love language. Hell, it's important for us to understand our own, but a lot of times we don't. And so, I always think to myself, like, if I had to start over, not even if I had to start over, but if I had another kid today, how different it would be than the 17, 18-year-old having kid, and then I had another one at 28. Like, just the things that I've learned, the ways that I've matured, the hurts that I've healed, the journey that I've gone on myself, the changes within my children's lives, to have done something different, maybe more effective, maybe more appropriate, but you know, they're still my kids. So we still have that time today. We still have the opportunity today to say, I'm sorry, to ask for a hug, to not demand an apology from your kids. Like, I think that's one of the things that one of my girlfriends, I saw her and her children is probably 20 years ago. And I was like, wow, I never thought about this. When her kids would get into a fight, she wouldn't make them apologize to each other. Which I don't think that you should. I don't think you should force somebody to apologize, because I don't really fucking even apologize. Like, I'm just doing it because you're telling me to. I'm not sorry. But she would have them ask each other, do you accept my apology? And it was safe to say, no, I don't accept your apology right now, because I don't have to. And, you talk about the power bucket, like, that's power, because the kid only has so much. They can control what they eat and when they pee. You cannot force a kid to eat. You cannot force a kid to pee or not pee. Those are the two bodily functions that we can't make them do anything about. We control every aspect of their life except bathroom action and table, eating food. Outside of that, like, when you do start to learn, your kids love languages. When you do start to give them those tools, like, you see them blossom. Like, you see like the dots are starting to connect. And kind of back to what you said in the beginning, Tiara, how so many generations before us, and even our generation sometimes, is like, you speak when you're spoken to, or you're not heard, unless I ask for your opinion. And it's like, if this shit didn't work for us growing up, and we're full of resentments, and we're full of judgments, and we're full of hurts and things from our families, at some point we do have to tap into, this cycle is dysfunctional. Like, this is toxic. This is not good to continue doing.
And you know what? You made a lot of points. When we look back on our lives and thinking about how we were raised, how our parents did make, if you had siblings, they made you apologize. You couldn't go outside. You couldn't go outside and play with your other friends. And you mad at your brother.
I ain't a problem with that, though. Some things you got to.
But that's what I'm saying. I get what they're trying to teach you. They never really told you the why they're doing that. They just kind of told you, you can't play out with if you can't get along with your brother, then you can't go play with your friends. And then you be like, man, and then you're even pissed off.
More mad.
Or you just go back outside and you start playing, and then you realize it wasn't that serious in the first place. It probably wasn't worth holding on to.
Right. So I get why they wanted you to, make sure you always reconnect with your family before you even go outside the household. But I think it wasn't, a lot of times we weren't communicated with to understand the why they were doing. Parents never had to tell you that.
Because I said
so. You just
because I said so. That's it. Because I said so.
I don't do that. I don't do it because I said so.
No, me neither.
I probably need to read another parenting book on raising close siblings. No, I'm just thinking, like, I do make my daughters say sorry to each other. Of course, they fight. They're only 2 years apart, so they're 4 and 2. They fight all day.
Right.
So they say sorry and they say thank you, and then I tell them to, hug it out if they want to. I don't make them hug, but I'm like, you want to give her a hug, and then they give you. But I do say you're sorry.
I don't think it's bad.
And it's not, because we want them to be aware.
It might be a better way, but I want.
But I mean, I think maybe at a certain age, then I think Nikki right, at a certain age, you may want to
find a different way, right? Because right now I see them, like, I hate to see one of them crying or upset and the other one still playing. Like, and so it's like, no, I'm trying to teach them, no, if your sister's crying, if your sister's upset, we come check on sister. We see if she's okay.
Right.
Have some empathy for each other.
Right.
All right,
and that's a good thing. That's a beautiful thing, because my boys have always been raised like that. Their dad was always very good about that shit. Not like the be secretive thing, but like, this is your brother. This is your sister. There's nobody else outside of that. Like, you have to take care of home first. And so I always appreciated that in them, because my boys don't fight. I mean, they do bicker, of course, because they're 11 and 14, but like, they're solid. Like, they are a team, and I think, like, for you, Ivory, you've got 2 little girls, like, super close in age. Like, girl, that's going to be hell on wheels for life. But it goes back to, like, what we've been talking about. Yeah, so it goes back to what we were talking about. It's just having that foundation of, each child having their own toolbox, because everybody's toolbox looks different, you know? And I think parenting, if done properly, is the toughest fucking job in the world. When people say, "Oh, kids is nothing," I'm like, then you're not attentive. You're not plugged in.
Exactly.
They're raised by the television. They're raised by something else, because parenting, especially, wait till them kids get a little older. You got you some teenagers under your belt. Like, raising children properly should be the most challenging, gut-wrenching, fucking questioning everything I've ever said and done, you know? And so, like, today I'm so grateful that I've got one that's about to be 25, so I can see a little bit of the fruits of my labor here, and I'm like, okay, we did a good job. Like, there's hope for the other two still. But it took so much. It took a lot in the beginning, you know, to try to find what worked. And then sometimes that don't work. So you got to find something else that works. You got to find something else that works. And I think just us being in the constant space of, how can I grow? How can I be more effective? You know, how can I be better? Like, that's the greatest place to start. Like, just that. You don't even have to have the answers. Just start there. You know, say, I'm sorry. Mean it. You know, ask, you know, can I give you a hug? I'm really sorry. You know, and explain it. Like, I don't know if y'all do, but like, when I apologize to my kids, I explain what I'm apologizing for. You know, I want them to know, I'm sorry I said this, or I'm sorry that I raised my voice, or I'm sorry that, you know, like, I let me be as an example of foolishness, so that they can see that it's okay to make mistakes, but it's not okay to keep making them. You know what I'm saying?
Have you been more vocal to your parents and disagreements as you've gotten older? Or do you still feel like your parent puts you in a child space, and they're, you know, they flex that I'm the parent type of role? Because there's sometimes where I'll be like, you know, Mom, I'm cool on this. I get you, my mama, but
right.
I got this. This. Okay, you know. Have you had to deal with that?
My parents never really did that with me. They definitely respect me as a man for who I am. I never had that. Yeah, I just not really at all in my adult life. I haven't really had that. And I respect them. We have good conversations because they're respectful. I'm just bolder to ask them things that, you know, I think they'll answer versus they wouldn't answer. Certain things they wouldn't be as open about when I was younger, but now they'll be more open about it. So now I ask everything. I go back and ask things that I asked before because I'm like, oh, they're gonna tell me now. But yeah, no, it's.
I would
now, what about
say,
you, Ivory? Because you're the girl of the family. So is it different for the brother than it is for the sister?
Even when me and Quinn were at the house together, we were not treated the same. Even when I hit the same milestones, I did not get the same freedoms, privileges, nothing.
Wow.
But moving on.
So I said, there's some resentment in here. That's what we're talking about.
I'm like, what happened? Quinn's a boy.
I know, I used to do that with my brother too.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So I would say, since when I first got grown, I think moving away from me helped, because as soon as I graduated from high school, I moved to Texas. And then what I did to my mom when I came back to live the next summer, I think I called and said, hey, I want to come home for the summer, but I'm not living with you. And she was like, you're not living with me. I was like, I can't take it. Like, I can't take you telling me what to do. And she was like, girl, whatever. Just come home. I won't tell you what to do. So that was on the just letting me know what to do. So
you moved back to Illinois?
Yeah, for a summer.
Oh.
Well, did she tell you what to do, or did you get to just like, you grown now? So
she didn't tell me what to do, but we still had to have it out one time, because I had got rededicated. Like, I got back in church, gave my life back to Christ, all of this, because I had just been acting crazy my senior year. And so when I came back home, I was hanging out with some of my friends. I was staying out late. I was doing some things. And one day she says, I thought you really changed, but like, you're just doing the same old stuff that you were doing before.
Burn!
That's like a dagger.
Burn!
And I was,
how dare you?
Were so hurt. I think I didn't speak to her for 2 days. But this goes back to your thing about apologizing, Nikki, because after 2 days, she came, I just want to say I'm sorry. You know, I shouldn't have said that. But even with that, like, I wasn't ready to accept the apology. So I had to tell her, like, look, we both grown. Like, who is over your shoulder telling you what a good Christian looks like? Do you have somebody doing that to you? I don't need that. Like, don't do that to me. She was like, you're right. You know, my mom is good at that, though. She was like,
Well,
you're
that's
right.
good.
You're completely right. I was not right for that. That's not fair. And then we've, like, never had to have any conversation like that since I've been grown again.
Humility creates a safe space.
Yeah.
Being humble creates a very safe space. You know, to be able to have a parent who's that humble, to like, you know what, you're fucking right. Like, huh? I am?
Say it like
okay.
that,
I know, but I'm just saying the fact that that space can be created, you know, it allows for people to be more vulnerable. You know, it creates a learning experience like that. I definitely, I'm sure it's no surprise. No, my parents, you know, my dad, of course, is passed now. It'll be 2 years coming up in a couple weeks, but like, nah. I mean, once I was out of the house, I mean, but you gotta remember, I had a kid at 18, so I grew up real fucking quick. I was already responsible for another person before I could even buy alcohol, you know? So I think that my parents they never really had a tight leash on us per se. But the interesting thing is, you know, I am not that way with my children, right? Like, I think that sometimes my mom and my sister and I and a lot of the women in my mom's family kind of are like friends with their kids and are friendly and, you know, do certain things, right? Like, my daughter and I have never drank alcohol together. She's 25, she's about to be 25. That's not something I want to do. I don't, you know, I don't knock people that do. That's just, for me, I'm her mom. I'm not her friend. Like, I have raised her whole life to make good decisions. I'm not trying to have you see me drunk and stupid and obnoxious. You know what I mean? Like, that's not to say that we don't know that those things don't happen, but like, I don't need her to go to, like, when she turned 21, people are like, oh yeah, you get to take her to the club. Fuck no.
Oh, heck no.
I am not. Like, oh, but you can take her out and you can get her drunk. No, we're not doing, like, I don't even fucking get drunk. Why do I want to push that off her like that? So the dynamic for myself and, say, my mom, it's very different than the dynamic for myself and my daughter. Like, I am her mom. All of her friends, I am their mom. I am not their friend. But it allows for that, you know, we talked about hierarchy in the beginning of the conversation. It kind of allows for a little bit of a hierarchy, that I am a trusted person. I am a safe person. As opposed to the mom who's going to the club and taking the kids out to drink and sneaking in the boys and like lying to dad about shit so that, you know, girl can do this. And I think, yeah, I definitely don't have that experience. I am very much a one-man band over here. And I think my parents knew a long time ago. They gave me great tools. There's probably not much more they're going to do trying to reel me in somewhere. I'm going to have to learn shit on my own. And I have.
Yeah.
And I hope I did a good job along the way.
Yeah. A lot of parents have to understand the transition when their child becomes adult, being able to pull back.
Let go a little bit.
And yeah, you're still their parent, but not in the same capacity that you have been for so many years. And, you know, that's hard to let go.
Well, I saw that for you when your son went on his fucking trip. When he graduated and he like went to the East Coast. I was like,
yeah, they went.
Oh my God. I was like, I don't know if I could have done it. I was like, I said, I applaud her because I don't know if I could have done it, you know. But that was a milestone moment, and he got to experience something that, you know, if you were being, you know, in your feelings about it, he would not have been able to experience. And it sounds like he did a great job while he was there. You know,
he came back with all fingers and toes. But it's really difficult. And Quentin and Ivory will experience soon enough. It seems like the years go by super fast. That letting, you know, releasing them out into the world, you know, and it's a difficult thing to navigate. And so I do understand when my mother's still trying to, and I love my mother giving me advice. I call her for advice. That is my person. But then there's like, I take your advice. Thank you. This is what I'm doing though. So
Mhm.
she's had to learn that as well. Like, okay, she's not gonna. I can't tell her what to do. Well, I mean, she
Mhm.
knows that many years ago, but it was just
Right.
finding that delicate uh, dance we had to do as she seeing me as an adult.
Mhm.
When I finally moved out the house a while ago.
I
It's
think
not
it's
Yeah,
just
as
now that
hard. You have to it's what are you raising your kids for? I see some people who raise their kids, that's my baby, they always gonna be my baby, and you raise them like your baby for the rest of, they're not gonna be your, you have to raise them not to be a great child, you have to raise them to become a good man or a good woman. So
Mhm.
once they
Mm-hmm.
get to that, and I do have grown children, not directly mine, but I did raise 3 boys, and they
Okay.
you had to, there's a transition. It ain't me telling you what to do anymore, especially since me and their mother wasn't actively together anymore. And we, it's, I have to, being your father is not the same thing as being your, even I will always be your father, but you're not always a child. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, you don't always put someone in that child role. You can give them fatherly advice from man to man, and I learned how to do that from my father, because my father, he don't treat me like a child. Now he's never tried to be my best friend at all, but
Mhm.
he's always been my father.
Mhm.
But now it's not the same way as uh I'm your father and you a child. No, I'm a father and you my son, but we're both men. So now let me
Mhm.
give you fatherly advice from where you are right now to help you to the next step as you continue in
Mhm.
man. It's just a difference in how you approach it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I was thinking now that I have children, I didn't realize what a great sacrifice it was for my mother to let all of her children live in Texas without putting a lot of pressure on us. Like, because I can't imagine all of my children moving away from me right now.
Mhm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like,
Mhm.
she really was like, do what you feel is best for you, even though I know it hurt her
No, my
for
mom was
Right.
none of
trying
us
to,
to live there.
she was pushing me to Texas.
Okay. Well, she pushed all of us out the door, but she thought we'd come back, and we never did.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, that's true.
wow.
My sister
See,
just went back last year, but it has been what, 20 years, Quentin,
oh,
that we
About
all
wow.
have
20
lived in
years, more
Texas
than
for
Jeez.
20
20
years for
years.
her. It's been about 26 years for her, because she was in Atlanta for
So I'm
6 years
like,
in Philadelphia.
wow, if all of my children moved away, like, would I be okay with them
Mm-hmm.
just doing what was best for them? And I hope once they get there, I would be. But my husband had just mentioned it, like our middle daughter, he was like, oh, she definitely moving away and going somewhere. Like, that's just her personality. And I was like, oh God, no.
She can't leave me.
Yeah.
A
My
No.
lot of
my
people
babies
end up.
can't leave me.
A lot of parents end up moving where their kids is, like my mom
Yep.
did,
I would be.
because
That would be me. That'd be
because you want to be active in
me.
the grandkids. Like if my son
That's
just moved to
it.
California, you think I'm not gonna? I want to be active in my grandkids' life.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna want
Absolutely.
to. So it is hard. That has to be hard for
Yep.
you guys parents to be in Illinois and want to. You just had a new baby and she probably want to spend as much as time as possible with the grandkids. All the grandkids. Quentin just had a baby. Like
Yep.
It's rough. It's rough.
so.
I didn't get it till I had kids. Like, oh
Yes,
God,
that's
that would
difficult.
be so hard. Yeah.
Yeah,
See, and
I used to laugh at. I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say I used to laugh at people when they be like their kids going off to pre-K or there's they be crying, or when they go off to college they be crying. But that really is you having to detach that umbilical cord to a level that you have not done. You had someone in your house, you knew when they were home, you were okay, you could process that. But when they go out in the world, you don't know what time they got home. Are they okay? That
Mhm.
is a level of like anxiety and stress you have to tamper down, and it's really difficult.
I think one of the things that kind of I have a premature anxiety about lately is, my youngest is 11, my oldest is going to be 25. My middle is 14, so like he'll be getting to do the driver's ed and shit next year or whatever. And the reality is, I've only got 7 years before the littlest is 18. So whatever he chooses to do when he turns 18, which, everybody always jokes that, my son Carter is never going to leave me. Like he's always going to have a room somewhere wherever I live. But like I have some premature anxiety about empty nest syndrome because for me,
Mm-hmm.
I have literally actively every single day since December 3rd of 1996, I've been raising somebody. I've been responsible for some other human. And
Mm.
there was no breaks. I had a kid at 18 and I had two more. Like there's never been a day since December 3rd of 1996 where I haven't had to be plugged in and attentive to another human being for their life to actually be sustainable. That I will be 50 by the time my son turns 18. From
Hurry up and
fucking
have another one
18,
now.
you
We
better
got
shut
time.
your mouth. Kasha has told me, look, Kasha
Go
has
ahead.
said do not. Kasha said do
Set
not.
that clock back.
Look, the way my life is set up right now, I better just get
Set that
dogs and
clock
be
back.
good to go. But from 18
No,
to
but
50.
listen, my ex-girlfriend, her the oldest is, I believe he's 27 now. Her youngest is 2.
Oh,
So
heck
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I would love to
It's
have
a
more
gap.
kids. There's a very large part of me that would still love to have more children. I've always wanted to have like 8 to 10 kids, I swear to God. But with the same person would have been my preferred goal. And since that's clearly not gonna happen, I just don't want to have a bunch of, additional men out there.
It don't
And,
matter at this point. Go ahead, get that last one off.
The money right.
And the
I'm
money is
Nikki.
not
That don't
right.
matter. That don't matter.
No, the money,
Yeah.
the money does not. The money is not right. But I think I think probably one of the greatest gifts I was given this year is, I'll try not to cry. Somebody asked me if I would if I would legally, take their children. Ooh, if something happened to them, and I was like, oh my God, like there's no greater like compliment than saying, would you take my children if something happened? And it was like, how would I not? Of course I would take them. I'd take them if something didn't happen to you. Like I'm all about trying to make sure that kids are happy and whole and loved and heard and valued. And there's just, that was just like, sometimes I wonder,
People
you
can say
talked
you're
about
a good parent, but if somebody says
Trust
that,
you.
like take, I will want you to take my kid. That's
really mean
ultimate validation that, hey,
Well,
I think you're an awesome parent.
And you talked about purpose in the beginning of the conversation, and I've never known. I've never really had a compass that says this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you were supposed to do if you didn't have a kid at 18. I literally think sometimes I am on this planet to just be a mom. Like that, I'm just here to like raise good humans and hopefully put them out into this world. That I literally don't know who I'm going to be when I hit 50.
Adopt. My grandmother, she was what, in her 60s, 70s. She adopted another child.
Damn, really? At 60, 70? Wow.
Well, I don't know when she actually took her.
Wow.
Well, she was maybe in her 50s when she took her, maybe.
A lot of empty nesters
she was in her 50s when she took her. And that's my auntie now. We don't think of it.
Well, and my daughter's got a girlfriend, so she's like, yeah, there's not going to be any grandbabies anytime soon. And I'm like, shit, I got to wait for the boys. But then that's also a challenge because, them babies is my babies, but them belong to them girls, right? I'm like,
oh. Take as long as you think. You had another child come in no time.
Oh, you better stop. You better. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. It'd be a Virgin Mary baby. Shit, how does that happen? What happened? No.
I mean, I think we learned just like, it's not a set book to help us guide us how to raise kids. We really do learn off experience and
that's it.
And trial and error. And we just hope that we do a good job. We try to do right by our kids and show them we love. Well, not everybody, but for the most part, that's what our whole goal is, just to raise them up well and give them a chance. A lot of times these kids don't even have that. So, being able to understand your anger and talk about it with your kids and child rearing and many layers can be so beneficial to the whole community out here, because there's a lot of angry kids out here. It's a lot of angry kids.
I believe
Nikki,
that.
I was gonna say, when you were just saying not knowing the purpose, I really have gotten to the point, like when people say, what's your New Year's resolution or what's your plan for the next 5 years? Be a good mom.
Yep.
I'm not
trying
to conquer the whole world for the next 20 years. God's main purpose for me is to be the best freaking mother that I can be.
Yeah.
And everything else is secondary to me at this point. I mean, being a good wife too, but we're talking about kids.
Right.
But you know, this house and this family is my primary goal. And I think that's a wonderful purpose. Like, I'm not looking to be fulfilled by anything else at this moment. Like, once they're gone, I'll refigure it out.
Right.
But for now, that's it.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that. You know, I wish that, of course, some things may have happened differently along the way, but you can't change the past. You know, you can only do what you can with that information, you know, for the future. And I am grateful for the learning opportunities that life has allowed me to have with my kids, and to be able to correct mistakes and to learn to be better. And, you know, in that, we become better people. We become, you know, we become happier individuals.
Yeah, kids teach you about yourself.
Oh, yes.
They'll teach you some stuff about yourself. You're like, okay, yeah. Because you know what? Their kids are you are in your kids. You know, ever heard the saying, you got to parent you out of your kids?
Yeah.
A lot of them, it is you.
Yeah,
it's a combination of mom and dad. And so
I like really me. I ain't got to look. I encourage the me inside of them.
Yeah, you know, it excites me. I'm so very happy my children are my children. I'm so happy my kids are my kids. And it's funny because people be like, them definitely your kids. You know, and it is a pleasure. I'm glad that, you know, it wasn't it's too late moment, you know, and I think that some people do unfortunately reach that, you know. And so I think tying this whole entire conversation together for anybody that's watching and listening, you know, there's just so many spaces, I think, in our lives, you know, as we get older, that we owe it to ourselves, and we definitely owe it to our children to explore, why do we operate the way that we operate if it's not effective? And it is okay for that system to have been what maybe worked up until this point, but it's okay to also break those systems. It's okay to also get out of those systems, you know. And for anybody who feels like they're stuck, or they have to keep the ego up, or keep the machismo up, you know, with their kids, you don't. They respond to a hug and love far more than anything else. That don't mean we might not whoop our kids, because we still love them. Spank them because we love them. But I think that, you know, like you said, there's so many angry kids in this world. That's our doing. That's on us.
Exactly. It's a reflection of us. So
what are we
doing, and why do we have so many angry kids? Yeah. We need to do better. We all need to do better.
We do. And there's so many resources. There's so much therapy out there. You know, there's so many books. There's so many groups. There's just so much. Our access to information is so much greater than our parents' access to information, than even us as probably younger parents' access to information. Like, there really is no excuse anymore. You know, my dad says, shoulda get off the pot. And really, shoulda get off the pot. Like, we have today to be able to do something different. Don't wait till tomorrow. That doesn't mean you have to fix it today, but just saying, I'm sorry. Just offering a hug, you know, just like you said, timing out and breathing a little bit, you know, 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out, just breathing properly will bring down that anger, will bring down that aggression, will bring down that fight or flight syndrome, to where anxiety, I can have a logical thought. To where you can now think, okay, how does the cooler head me respond in this situation than the destructive me who just wants to hurt because I'm fucking hurt, you know? And you know, reading the comments of some of the people that chimed in tonight, this is a big topic. Like, this is something that a lot of people struggle with, or a lot of people are struggling with a partner or a parent, you know, and don't know how to fix it. And sometimes it might seem easy for some of us to know, you know, how do we navigate this anger ship? A lot of people don't, and it goes back to those same tools. If our kids ain't got them, we have to accept that some adults don't have them either still. But shit, or get off the pot, man. You know, one of those quotes that I read today, and I've seen it many times before, says that anger is like drinking poison, expecting somebody else to be poisoned by it. No, fool, I done drank the poison. How are you gonna get sick off of my poison? But we do. We think that we're gonna make them pay. So we do the petty, we do the confrontational, we do the silent treatment, we do the I'll show you. And it's like, you're literally only hurting yourself. Really and truly, when it's all said and done. And it solves absolutely nothing. So I loved the conversation. I'm glad that you brought it up. Like, and I liked the thing that you posted on the page about the horoscope thing. And, some people do or don't, feel that some type of way about horoscopes. But when you look at what some of those behaviors look like, it's like, oh shit. Like, oh, I do that sometimes, It was a good one. I really liked the anger, and I liked how we tied this into the spanking conversation, because I really think that that's where the spanking and the whoopings and the fine line between what works and what doesn't work is based on, is the anger that the parent feels. We didn't get to twerking, but it's all right. We'll get to that next week.
The twerking next time.
The twerking. The twerking. And I do want to talk about those 3 questions, or the questions that you posed about what are the 3 things, that think are, most ineffective about the education system. I told Q today, I was like, that's a whole show on itself, because we could break that sucker down for hours, But I enjoyed this conversation. I really did. So I appreciate you guys, being, again, vulnerable. Hell, if our kids don't know nothing, they know we will put it out there. We might vomit our guts a little bit, but I think that it shows them that this is just, we're just being human. Yeah, we're just being human, man. And I'd rather them see me be vulnerable than just this tough shell of, a facade.
Irony killing me. I just love it over here.
I know. It's like
the baby the whole time.
And look, he is so mad right now. I'm like, what?
Are you angry, baby? Are you angry, baby?
Yeah. No more sharing, Mom.
Oh, he's so cute. Okay. Oh my God.
Fighting me.
Anybody got any last words? Anything y'all want to share? Any news we need to hear about?
No, I think we've got a good topic today.
Same old. Yeah, definitely. And if anybody has any resources or book recommendations, or, I know a while back Denise had posted some stuff that like her therapist had given her about anxiety and stuff like that. Like, if you got anything, feel free to post it, because even though people might not say something, they're looking, they're reading, and sometimes people just like to be private about stuff like that. So I've got some book recommendations that I will share that made an impact on me. But if any of you guys can think of some of the stuff that you've read, or even like Ivory, you mentioned some parenting books, share what some of those are, because
I'll share.
Yeah. And I'm never too old to reread or to learn new things, so definitely sharing any of those things that you guys have, because I think that's how change is created. It's just resources and access to information.
I'll share a thread that came from Twitter about it was different things that people had learned from their therapists, and they wrote it down.
Oh, I think I saw somebody post it, but I didn't read that. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, wow, yeah, this is good.
And isn't it crazy how like therapy just makes things make sense? You're like, how the fuck did I not know this? How did nobody teach me this? Right.
You probably already know it inside your heart, but just it's good to hear somebody else say it.
True. All right. Well, good night, y'all.
Good night, guys.
See y'all next week.
Bye.